Hi Felicia, and welcome to my week 4 screencast to show off my client contact manager app. Um, just really quick, I had a wonderful month with you. You were one of the best instructors I had so far in Full Sail. Not trying to badmouth the other instructors, but I just learned so much with you. I was so scared of learning PHP, and you kind of melted that fear away. So it really has, not just with PHP, it really has re-enhanced, I guess, and enhanced my programming skills in general throughout the board. So thank you, and I hope in the coming months I run into you again as a teacher. And I just really enjoyed this class, and I'm going to try to stay connected with you after the screencast and hop on LinkedIn because you're just the best. Showering you with compliments. So let me go ahead and get started with the application to explain. I'm going to go over the code really quick. So in my last video, it ran 20 minutes long, so I don't want to do that with this video. Not last week, the one that I was trying to do for this week, it ran into 20 minutes long. So I don't want to do that to you. Alright, so this is my clients.php file here, and then we have our start session, and we have our session that checks for the message. If there's a message, echo it, and then unset it so it doesn't stay stored. Then we do a connection to the database, and here's the process, and checking to see if the user have submitted the form, and if they have, then collect the input fields, the data from the input fields, and store it into the variables so we can pass it into the statement down here and bind the parameters to the SQL statement and add it to the database, right? But prior to that, we grab these variables, but these input fields, these datas, and then we validate them. I went through a lot of troubleshooting with the validation here, but it was a really great challenge. It really was. It took me a day or two to figure out. I mean, it was easy. I guess I was just confused with the is set. I was getting mixed up, and then I was trying to do different things. That were a little bit too complicated and didn't have to be complicated. But I figured it out, and so it's working. But anyways, we do nested conditionals here where it checks if the phone is valid, if the email is valid, and if the URL is valid. And if they are, then grab these variables, grab these data, the input fields, and store them in the variable. If they're not valid, then we set the session error to equal to 1. And then here, so we don't add the invalid information into the database, in here we we do another conditional. We check if the session error is set, and if it is, if it's if it's equal to 1, then we're gonna destroy the session so we don't continue executing the script. So we force the user to type in a valid entry. And if everything is good to go, then we proceed with connecting to the database and adding all the new information that we got into our table clients contacts. And then here, just to show really quick, the HTML, all the form fields, and I'm using also client-side validation to check if the fields are empty. And then we do another PDO connection to read everything from the table and order it by ID. And we're going to store it in an array. And then from that array, we're going to do a for each loop to grab all the information so we can display it on the screen for the user to see. So here what I did is I put the first name and the last name together to create like a header with that. And I'm going to show you the jQuery that I did that. And then once click the name that the client wants to see, then it does a toggle effect where it displays the phone, the email, and the website. And it also gives the option for the user to either update or delete. And as you can see here, it is connected to, well, edit or click X for delete. So it's connected to their respective PHP files. Here, under the side, we have a div that I created that is kind of like a dialog for the delete button to confirm with the user to make sure if, you know, hey, if you want to delete this for real or you just hit this by accident. So if they hit the delete button, as you can see here in the jQuery code, if they hit the delete button, then it proceeds with the URL, which is the delete PHP, and then execute that script. If not, then it just stays on the page. It just cancels, it halts everything and doesn't proceed with the script. And then here, up here, I created a message dialog box for all the messages that pass through, and as well as all for the invalid errors to alert the user. Use the same styling here, the same code. And then this is for the toggle effect for the like contact card for the client contact card. And this right here is this from here to all the way down here is all for that delete button. It became a lot more code because, you know, the jQuery dialog function or UI doesn't behave like the window.conform function in JavaScript, right? So I had to add extra code, add prevent default. So when it does pop up, the PHP file doesn't, the delete PHP file doesn't continue to run, because that's what an issue that I was running into. So that's that. Let's hop over here and let me go ahead and demonstrate adding a client. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and type in John, last name Rico, phone number I'm just going to use 555, and John at gmail.com, and then we'll just say john.com, right, just for demo purposes. And then I hit save, and then your client was successfully added, and that's the message dialog to alert the user it was successful. So then we scroll down here, John Rico has been added, and then if we go to the database here and hit refresh, John Rico. Now let me go ahead and show you the validation process. So if, of course, if I hit enter, well, if I hit save with all the fields empty, then it's going to alert me, yeah, you gotta, that's the client side validation, you gotta fill in these fields. So nothing happens. So let's do a mistake here. Let's try to add Mr. Rico back in. And then phone number, let's screw up his email. john@gmail.com with no at, and then john.c, and then you hit save, and oh no, invalid email. So that error pops up, that error message pops up, and then you hit OK, and no additional John Rico gets added. We check our table here, and nothing gets added to the table. So that's the validation process. Let's just hop back over here in the code and look at the update PHP. So same thing, you start the session, and then we have the session message to be equal to the update with successful message. So when it gets passed into the client, it'll pop up in the dialog box. We make a connection to the database, a new PDO connection, and then from the client that gets selected to be edited, that ID gets passed into the URL for update.php. We get that ID and we link it, we connect it with the ID on the table, so we can pull that pull that client. Sorry, I'm mixing mixing names here, terms here. So we pull that client and all their contact information and put it into an array. Then same process here from the client.php. We do a check if the update form was submitted, and if it was, we're going to grab all the new values, all the new information, and pass it through into the update SQL statement. So, but prior to that, of course, we can't trust a user to not make mistakes as well on the update form, so I included the validation to make sure if the phone number, if the email, and website URL is valid. And same process where, if the session error is set, then we destroy the session. We don't store anything. We don't store the updated information into the table. If there's no errors and we're good to go, then we proceed with the prepare statement here and binding all the new values to that ID, that selected ID. And then we go back to our client's page, and then the user get notified that it was updated successfully. And then we run into here the HTML form, just show you really quick. And then here we're capturing all the data from that ID. We're capturing all the data from that ID and then showing it, displaying it on the form as a value, so the user can review it and make their updates. And here's just a jQuery on the dialog box. So let's pop over here and let's go ahead and update, let's say, Christina. And let's edit her contact information. Let's say cplant@gmail.com. Let's just change her email, and then we hit save, and then we get alerted that it was updated successfully. We hop back over here and do a refresh, and then we see Christina Plant on ID 21, Christina Plant, and then we see that her new email is cplant@gmail.com and not cvera. Now, just to do a demo of validation process to show you that it's working, see, we have no email here. So let's just hit save, and then the client side says, hey, there's no email. Let's do a mistake here with nothing on, just blend everything in, right? And then hit save, and then it's been validated, telling me that the email is invalid. So let's just go ahead and just to show you that nothing is being updated, nothing is proceeding, that the code is being halted when there's an error. So it's still the same here. And then cvera@communications.com. And then save, and then update was successful. And last but not least, let's go ahead and go through the delete file. So we have here, same thing, session start, the session message, we set it equal to your client has been deleted successfully. And then we connect to the database with a new PDO connection, and then we go ahead and grab that ID that was selected, that was clicked on. We grab that ID, and then we pass it into the delete statement here. We bind it, and then from there we delete it from the table, and we return back to the home page. So let's go right into it. There's a lot of Luana Goncalves here, a lot of testing went on. So let's go ahead and delete one of my names. So I'm going to hit delete here, and then you get the dialog box that I was telling you about that I created earlier. The dialog box where it confirms, hey, you want to delete this client? Then you hit the delete or cancel. So let's go ahead and delete. And then it tells you your client has been deleted successfully. So back over here, I'm assuming it's Luana number 2. We'll see here, refresh. Yep, and Luana number 2 was deleted. Let's go ahead and test the other way around where we hit cancel. Let's do Luana number 1 and then hit delete, and then ask you if you want to delete. No, I don't want to delete that Luana. And then so it's canceled. We go back here and we refresh, and everything is still the same. Nothing has been deleted from the form. So from the table. So this is my application. I hope you enjoyed the screencast, and I'll talk to you soon. Again, it was a pleasure having you as a teacher, and I hope I have you again at some point later on this year. All right, bye.